On his final days in office, President Donald J. Trump signed a series of surprising pardons that included a few famous rappers and hip-hop moguls. Here's a look at the most famous hip-hop stars pardoned of their crimes in 2021. Lil Wayne. Dwayne Carter, aka Lil Wayne, is rap royalty and one of the most successful artists in the history of the genre. Even though he's been in the music industry since he was 11 years old, Lil Wayne has had his fair share of legal troubles. In December 2020, the rapper pled guilty to a federal firearms charge in Florida, but was pardoned by Trump on his final day in office.
Rapper Lil Wayne, he was charged with possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. According to court documents, today's development stems from a trip to Miami on a private plane last December. That's when authorities say they found the weapon during a search of the jet.
Even though Florida has more relaxed gun laws than most states, Wayne is a convicted felon, having served time for weapons possession earlier in his career, and therefore is not allowed to possess a firearm. Wayne's legal troubles began back in 2007 when he and an associate were caught smoking marijuana outside their tour bus following a performance at the Beacon Theater in New York City. When Wayne was arrested, the officers discovered that he had a .40 pistol in a bag nearby. The weapon technically belonged to his manager, but New York has strict gun laws, and Wayne was charged with the criminal possession of a weapon and marijuana. Wayne was apprehended as a fugitive for possession of a controlled substance outside Quest Arena in Boise, Idaho later that same year, but the charges were later dropped after the arrest was deemed a mistake. A few months later, in January 2008, Wayne's tour bus was stopped by Border Patrol agents near Yuma, Arizona. A K-9 unit detected drugs, and the officers uncovered 105 grams of marijuana, 29 grams of cocaine, 41 grams of ecstasy, and $22,000 cash. He was hit with 4 felony charges, including possession of narcotics with intent to sell, possession of dangerous drugs, misconduct involving weapons, and possession of drug paraphernalia. He posted a $10,185 bond and was granted permission to leave the state while awaiting trial. However, before his final hearing on the case in Arizona, he was sentenced to 1 year in prison for the weapons charge in New York. On October 22, 2009, Wayne pled guilty to attempted criminal possession of a weapon. He had his sentence delayed a few months due to a serious dental surgery where he had 8 root canals and had to have several teeth replaced. His sentence was delayed again after there was a fire in the basement of the courthouse. Finally, on March 8, 2010, Wayne was taken to Rikers Island where he served 8 months of a 1-year sentence. Even though he was caught with an MP3 player and headphones, which was considered contraband, he was let out early on good behavior and was released on November 4, 2010. Wayne stayed on his best behavior for most of the past decade, until he was caught transporting a loaded handgun on his private jet in Florida back in 2019. Because of his previous felony weapons conviction, Wayne was potentially facing a harsh sentence that may have included jail time if convicted. But Wayne was miraculously pardoned by Donald Trump on January 19, 2021. Wayne publicly endorsed Trump for president back in October 2020, which may have had something to do with the pardoning. Although Wayne's camp has denied this link, it would explain the sudden interest in politics from a rapper who never seemed to be involved in social causes. Back in 2016, Wayne caught heat for an interview he did with Nightline, where he denied the existence of racism in America and claimed he has heard of the Black Lives Matter movement.
I am a young, black, rich. If that don't let you know that America understands Black matter these days, I don't know what it is. Don't come at me with that dumb man. My life matters.
He has stayed away from the subject of politics since then until his Trump endorsement in 2020. But Wayne isn't the only hip-hop star to be pardoned by Trump. This next rapper caught quite the break when Donald pulled him back out of the pen. Let's get into it. Kodak Black. Bill Kahan Capri, born Dyson Octave, but known by his stage name Kodak Black, is a popular rapper from Pompano Beach, Florida, who was also pardoned by Trump on his last day in office. Kodak was one of the biggest rising stars in the mid to late 2010s and still has a massive fan base. However, his career has been slowed down by his frequent legal troubles, and he's currently serving a 46-month sentence for lying on federal paperwork when purchasing a weapon. However, Kodak may be coming home soon after President Trump granted him a pardon and commuted his sentence. Kodak grew up in a rough part of South Florida and has been in and out of jail since he was a teenager. He was expelled from the 5th grade for fighting and was arrested for auto theft in middle school. He started rapping in elementary school and would record his music at a local trap house after school. Kodak had numerous run-ins with the law throughout his career, including arrests for robbery, battery, false imprisonment of a child, drug possession, weapons possession, and more. In 2016, he was sentenced to house arrest for armed robbery and false imprisonment. In the same year, he was charged with an alleged rape that occurred in Florence, South Carolina. Despite the pardon of his weapons charges, the sexual case is still open, and Kodak will have to stand trial for this case once he's released. Since 2016, Kodak has been in and out of jail for parole violations and other charges. In 2018, he was charged with felony neglect of a child and other charges after an Instagram live session where a small child was shown around Kodak and his friends who were smoking weed and handling weapons. The police showed up while Kodak was still recording, and he captured part of the arrest.
My phone part of the search.
Oh, Mom, man. You ain't got no search warrant. I don't have nothing in my pockets, man.
Oh! Relax, all right? Calm down. All right, yes, you are.
He pled guilty to that charge and was released in April 2018. In April of 2019, he was arrested by U.S. Customs after they discovered marijuana and a Glock in his vehicle. Later that same month, he was arrested again while on tour after the FBI searched his tour bus and discovered weapons. He was detained by police on May 11, 2019, before he was set to perform at Rolling Loud in Miami. He was charged with 2 counts of lying on a federal form after law enforcement discovered that Kodak had purchased some of the weapons from a legal vendor, but lied on the application about being convicted of a felony. Prosecutors attempted to deny him bail, citing his past violent crimes and proof that he's a danger to society. He later entered a plea bargain and was sentenced to 46 months in prison. Then, in March 2020, he pled guilty to the firearms possession case where he was caught at the border and was facing 2 to 7 years that would run concurrently with his current sentence. However, Trump's recent pardon means he'll be coming home sooner than expected. He'll still have to face the sexual assault charges in South Carolina and possibly other outstanding charges that the rapper may have floating around. But this pardon gives Kodak a better shot at long-term freedom and continuation of his rap career. The artist has not stopped his hustle and released an album called Bill Israel back in November while behind bars. So hopefully, this news means that new Kodak music is on the way. But Trump didn't only pardon rappers, he also granted clemency for a few hip-hop moguls. Desiree Perez. Trump also pardoned CEO of Roc Nation, Desiree Perez. Perez is a music executive who has close ties to Jay-Z and has been one of his most trusted business partners since the 90s. She was born to Cuban immigrant parents in the Bronx and started her career running a cell phone and beeper company. She started doing promotions for a nightclub in Washington Heights and ended up managing several clubs by the late 90s. In 1996, she booked a young Jay-Z to perform at one of her clubs and has been doing business with him ever since. She helped him open the 4040 Club in Manhattan a few years later and was brought on to be the COO of Roc Nation in 2008. She became the CEO of the company in 2019 and was named Billboard Music's Women in Music Executive of the Year that same year. Perez was arrested in 1994 for drug possession and again in 1998 for grand larceny and possession of a firearm during her club promoter days. Desiree has mainly stayed out of the public spotlight despite the high-profile associations, and the details of these charges are not entirely clear. But the White House acknowledged that she has made a considered effort to turn her life around, and therefore, the crimes have been wiped from her record. Michael Harry O. Harris. Michael Harry O. Harris was the co-founder of Death Row Records. In 1992, Harris gave Suge Knight $1.5 million to start the label, which went on to promote legendary acts like Tupac and Dr. Dre. Harris was serving time for attempted murder and kidnapping that occurred in 1998. At the time, the federal government also alleged that he was involved in a massive drug trafficking ring that ran across the country. He spent 23 years in prison on the attempted murder charge until a key witness retracted their statement in 2011. He was released for that charge, but sent back to prison for drug charges, rather than being sent home. He was originally set to be released in 2028, but Trump's pardon means he'll be coming home much sooner. Snoop Dogg was one of the biggest celebrities lobbying for Harris' release. Despite Snoop's vocal disapproval of Donald Trump as president, he has claimed he is grateful to him for granting his pardon. Alice Johnson, a criminal justice reform advocate who President Trump freed 2 years ago with the help of Kim Kardashian, was made aware of Harris' case by Snoop. Johnson then brought it to the attention of Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump, who recommended that the president grant the pardon. Those are just a few of the people Trump pardoned in his final days in office. Many major names that fans had high hope for, like Bobby Shmurda, C. Murder, and Joe Exotic, were left off the list. But hopefully, these pardons mean that more music from Wayne, Kodak, and others is coming soon.